smiles, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Jenna Winters from the Division of Parks and Watercraft of the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. We're really excited to welcome you today to our open house for West Branch State Park, Lake Milton, and Nelson Kennedy Ledges. We're going to introduce our speakers here, starting with John Trevelling. John, tell the folks who you are.
Hi, welcome everybody. I appreciate you taking some time out of your afternoon to join us today. My name is John Trevelling. I'm the Park Manager for West Branch, Lake Milton, and Nelson Kennedy Ledges State Parks.
Okay, Curtis, introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, my name is Curtis Wagner. I'm with the Division of Wildlife. I'm the Fisheries Management Supervisor for Northeast Ohio.
You're up, Rochelle.
Hi, I'm Rochelle Gatto. I'm a naturalist over at Wingfoot and Portage Lake State Parks.
All right, Mick, you're live.
Hi, my name is Mick Katrina. I'm a camp coordinator out at West Branch State Park.
And last but not least.
Good afternoon, Lieutenant Scott Stoffer. I oversee law enforcement operations for Parks and Watercraft in Northeast Ohio, roughly 8 counties. Good afternoon.
All right, we want to let everybody know up at the top right-hand corner of your screen, there is a question and answer box. Looks like a little conversation bubble with a question mark. If you click on that, it'll open up the Q&A box for you. And please, by all means, if you have questions, you just want to say hi, send us a message, you can use that box there. If we don't get to your question during the presentation, we will have a staff member follow up with you. Take it away, John.
Thanks, Jenna. You guys, again, welcome. I appreciate everybody taking some time out of their day to join us. Have a slide presentation we're going to go through. We're going to talk a little bit about just some of the features at each one of the 3 parks. Kind of go through a couple of the things that we've done at each of the parks this past year, and kind of share a little bit about some of our plans, and then we'll move into some of my other colleagues talking about their specific areas that some information that we hope is beneficial, and then it will wrap up with a question and answer session. So without any further delays, I'm going to start us off, and we kind of went through some of the contributors and people who are going to be talking today, and as I said, there'll be a Q&A there at the end. But I suppose first off is I wanted you guys to be able to see some of the people behind the scenes and whatnot that help us out. You know, we often hear that our staff do a really good job, and we have a pretty good workforce at all 3 of the parks. These are some of the faces and folks behind the scenes that help make these 3 parks the great place that they are. Right now, we're in the process of amping up and opening for the spring and summer months. We always hire seasonal workers. If you guys know of anybody who'd be interested in joining our team, we're always looking for you know, ambitious, hardworking people. Just give our park office a phone call, and we'd be happy to meet with you and tell you more about some of our opportunities. Another element of workforce that we work closely with is ODNR's law enforcement. We have a few officers that are headquartered out at West Branch, and then we have our wildlife officers for Portage County and Mahoney County. These men and women do a really great job of representing our department and, you know, again, doing the public safety element and information and law enforcement components. And then lastly is the leadership team. You guys might know, obviously, Doug Lyons and myself from your visits to the park. On the LE side, there's Scott and Brian Andrews. We work closely together with these 2 gentlemen on all of the issues at each of these 3 parks and the others that are in Northeast Ohio. Kind of moving on into the parks, I'm going to start off and talk a little bit about West Branch. You guys might know that West Branch is on land that's predominantly on land that we lease from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. ODNR does own some small out parcels, but most of it, including the lake, is owned by the Army Corps of Engineers. It's about 5,400 acres of land and 2,600 acres of lake that are designated as unlimited horsepower. Because the lake has flood control purposes, the water levels are subject to change. If you've been out there lately, you can see that they're starting to draw up right now. We have a no-wake zone 300 feet from all shorelines and everything west of the Rock Spring Road Bridge. There's 5 boat ramps. The east ramp, the west ramp, and the camp ramp are the main areas of launching, but we also have 2 gravel ramps, one off of Rock Spring Road and one at Knapp Road. Those are popular with some of the smaller boats and some of the kayakers and other paddle craft. Out of our marina, which we'll talk a little bit about, we do have seasonal dock rentals that we operate through a lottery process. Mick Katrine will tell us a little bit more about that, but other things to do at the park, we have a beach, picnic areas, dog park, trails. You know, you have the Buckeye and various hiking trails, some snowmobile trails, a very wide-ranging network of mountain bike trails and some bridle trails as well. The park also has large hunting areas. If you go onto our website, we have a hunting map that kind of more clearly delineates each of those areas. As I mentioned, we do have a marina and a concessionaire that operates out of there. They're generally starting to open next month. And they usually run through October. They go under the name West Branch Marina, LLC. They have a website, but they have a lot of services there that the public can take advantage of. They have boat rentals. They do sell food, fuel, ice, and other sundries and little things that you might need in the event that you're out on the lake. The same concessionaire also operates out of Lake Milton. Now, as we move into the campground, I'm going to pass this over to Mick Katrine, who kind of is the person that oversees and coordinates a lot of our functions there. Mick? You're on mute, Mick.
Mick, you're still muted.
Still not hearing you, Mick.
How about now? Hopefully.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you. So as you said, my name's Mick. I'm a camp coordinator out at West Branch State Park. Right now in our campground, we have 200 plus sites. We're sitting at about 155 electric sites, 1 non-electric, the 42 full hookup sites, and then 3 group sites. In the past, we only had, I believe it was around 30 full hookup sites. This year, we tried to respond to a lot of visitor comments and expand that. So we actually added 13 new full hookup sites this year. And that has gone really well. People are enjoying the sites, and they're going great. So, and then in addition to the regular campsites, we also have 23 bridle trail sites, and all of those sites are reservable through the website at reserveohio.com or by calling the reservation center. We allow reservations up to 6 months in advance, and then we run winter camping from typically about the 1st of November until the end of this month. The winter camping has a limitation of 30 days in a 45-day period, and then as we switch into the summer camping next month, we'll have a 14-day limit in a 30-day period. John, if you want to go to your next slide there. So by the numbers, we did do pretty well last year. We had a sizable increase in the number of people staying in the campground, number of nights stayed. The big trend with camping this year was just that we had a lot of brand new first-time campers. And with that kind of came an increase in the number of questions related to the campground and the need for those full hookup sites that I mentioned we added earlier. So in responding to that trend in particular, we were able to open up some new full hookup sites this year. One of the other things we tried to do this year was add a new ventilation system and update a lot of our 4 shower houses. So far, we've got 3 of them done, and we're working on finishing up the last one now. We've added new fans and ventilation systems to the shower house and painted it, as well as worked on adding in the non-touch hand air dryers in the hopes that we could kind of slow down the COVID and things like that. The ventilation systems have worked well in keeping airflow moving and hopefully dispersing any of those kinds of concerns. We also ended up switching our water supply over from surface water to well water this season, and then that's about it for those improvements there.
One of our other big enhancements is the courtesy docks at the east and west ramp. We typically wait until the ice melts each season before we put those boat launches in. Those 2 boat launches are actually getting a total refurbishment where we did some repair work to the frame and all new wood decking. We're hoping to get those in here in about a week or so.
And that increase in the number of boaters this year as well, and between more people trying to come out and camp and more people doing boating, we definitely wanted to try and appeal to them and update those ramps. So,
thanks, Mick. Moving on to Lake Milton, kind of quick overview of Lake Milton. We're located obviously in northwest Mahoning County. It's about 1,700 acre lake. It also has unlimited horsepower. It's a recreational lake. So what we mean by that is summer pools usually held through October 15th and it doesn't fluctuate. One of the issues that we like to always point out to people are the no wake zones at Milton. Again, also 300 feet from the shoreline and everything in between that I-76 and Mahoning Avenue bridges and everything south of the Point View boat launch. The park features 3 public boat launches. We also have a seasonal dock rental via a lottery process. The Marina is located at Harry Michelle Park. Have shelter houses and gazebos that can be rented on a day-to-day basis through the reservation network at reserveohio.com, or calling the number. One of the big and most popular features at the park is obviously our beach. It's 600 feet of great sand. It's on the northwest corner. Anytime in the summer, obviously, you're very likely to see a big crowd there. Some of the other services we have, we do sell watercraft registrations at our park office. We do have a network of trails, some of which are paved, but we have a new and ever-growing network of mountain bike trails on the south end of the lake. And, you know, really the park is part of the Lake Milton community, but the community offers so much more. There's restaurants, there's golf courses and wineries that aren't part of it, but offer opportunities for people to recreate and enjoy their time while they're in the area. Moving on to the Marina, again, the same concessionaire from West Branch operates the Marina at Harry Michelle Park, and they typically start in May and they carry through October. Again, phone number and their website. They have boat rentals, including jet skis. Their outfit's a little smaller. They might have just some limited food, but they do have fuel. They do have ice. They have things like life jackets and other little boating apparel that you might need. It's on that small wooden shack that's at the end of Mahoning, or Harry Michelle Park. One of the other things that we have at Lake Milton this year, we did open it up to open vending. The past couple years, we had a woman, Kelly Pierce from Shaka Fitness, who did some stand-up paddleboard yoga that was really, really popular. We have her contact up there. We're hoping to have her back this year, and I know she's planning on returning. A couple updates for you guys on some things that have happened at Milton this past season. We recently added a new boat pump out station. We actually affixed it to the courtesy docks that are at the north end of the beach. We also refurbished the concessionaire's dock, similar to what we did at West Branch. We kind of did some welding and some repairs to the underside of them, and then did totally new decking on the top. One of the other things that we did this past year is we work with the Lake Milton Association, which is a community organization around the lake. Kind of have a shared partnership in them. They've worked with me on trying to clean up Robinson Point. We've done a lot of shoreline protection and cleanup over there over the past couple years, where we've substantially improved just the aesthetics and appeal of the area. I want to kind of thank the board members and members in general of that organization for getting behind that. That was something really important to me, and I'm very happy with how it's moving along. We added, I think, about 2 miles of mountain bike trails this year, and then lastly, we got some new decking on that walkway to the gazebo that's at Victoria Gardens. We just finished that about a week ago. A couple of the big things we have coming up this year is some work on the dam. And obviously Lake Milton, or the state park, owns the dam. Just to give you guys some basic info on it, it was, constructed back in 1916. And, it's considered a Class 1 dam, and it has an earthen embankment, sits about 53 feet high, and has a concrete-shaped spillway, and that water dumps into the Mahoning River and travels north through Newton Falls. But we do have a large capital project that's going to be going and taking place over on the earthen embankment, so that would be on the eastern half of it. It's about a $3 million capital project, and it'll include a significant rehabilitation to the embankment. And construction company that's coordinating this for us is called Rulin. I expect them to start here as soon as next month, maybe as late as the beginning of May. Most of the work should be done by, I would guess, this fall, early winter, but everything will definitely be wrapped up about a year from right now. One of the big things to kind of get off the table from the beginning is that the project's not going to affect pool levels within the reservoir. This isn't anything that the lake's going to get lowered. They're doing their work on that side, and hopefully not too many people even notice it. But kind of the scope of the work is they're going to be relocating a sanitary pipe from the embankment. They're going to be removing that beat up cement parapet wall that's on the crest of the dam. Going to be doing some ditch work and some drainage work over there. And they should also be placing a gravel drive for us to be able to move vehicles up and down from the park side on the crest of the dam. And then when they're all done, they'll be revegetating the embankment. Moving on to Nelson Kennedy Ledges. As you guys might know, Nelson's a small day-use park, about 178 acres, features an awesome network of really unique trails, has some picnic areas, and then we have a small non-flush restroom there. There's no potable water. The park itself is really small, but it offers some of the best hiking in the area, a lot of biodiversity and just scenery that if you like getting outside, it's a place worth visiting. A couple of the updates we did there this past year, we recently blazed our trails. Rochelle, the naturalist, who will be talking to you guys a little bit, was one of the people that helped us with that. I want to recognize her for that great work and to thank her. We also added in a couple new wooden walkways up there. Some of those areas that go in between openings where water travels can get a little wet and soupy, so put those in trying to help people stay out of the mud. One of the other demands that we did open the area for vending for food trucks during the summer months. This past year, obviously, we saw huge crowds, and those were popular and helpful for the people that were up there. We also did put in a new informational kiosk that featured a map of the trails and just some info on the geology and history of the park. We're hoping to add a couple of those to some of the other parks as well in this coming year. One of the big things with Nelson was, and it was like this with all of our parks, we had lots of crowds. At that place, it was kind of unique and special for us. Obviously, I think it's great. We got more of our fellow citizens out there and guests. Nelson's Ledges is always referred to as one of the hidden gems in Ohio. And this past year, we were able to open it up to a lot of first-time visitors. So that was a great thing. Having said that, I'm going to move this over to Lieutenant Scoffer, who's going to tell you a little bit about the law enforcement element of these parks.
Good afternoon. Again, I'm Lieutenant Scoffer. Thanks, John. We're just going to do a brief overview of the three different parks, some of the problem areas or concerns we have. West Branch in the campground, we make sure everybody slows down in the area. We have a lot of children in the area, so we want to make sure all our children are safe when you're staying at the parks. Also, when you're at the campground, alcohol is permitted, but it has to be on your campsite. Don't take the alcohol off the campsite. And because we try to keep it a family atmosphere, family environment. With that goes into respect your neighbors. There's a lot of people there. Last year, we had a record number of sales, a record number of nights at the campgrounds and at the park. So respect your neighbors. Quiet time is 10 o'clock at the campground. So make sure you're quiet and respect your neighbors. Boating at Milton and West Branch, there is no-wake zones. Make sure you abide by the no-wake zones. I know at Lake Milton, between the bridges, we get a lot of complaints from area residents. Make sure you slow down in between the wake zone. This year, we're going to have the Sheriff's Office start patrolling those areas. We gave a Mahoney County Sheriff's boat this year, so they will be out there patrolling also this coming summer. And make sure your registrations on your vessels expire March 1st this year, every 3 years. So make sure your vessels are registered, your canoes and kayaks, and get alternative registrations. So when you're out there, make sure your life jackets are readily accessible, Coast Guard approved, good serviceable conditions. So Nelson Ledges, a big thing in Nelson Ledges is being on the trail. We don't want anybody getting hurt, falling off the trail. So between sunset and sunrise, the park is closed. Make sure you're out there during the proper times, but stay on the trails. Go ahead, John, please. One more. Make sure when you're out there boating, make sure the buoy placements, know what the buoys represent. There's several areas you can launch small paddle craft at Milton and West Branch. There's gravel roads. As long as you can access that area, you can launch the boats and slow down the wake zones and the etiquette. There's no alcohol permitted on the boats at either park. No alcohol is permitted on the boats at any state park. So make sure you keep the alcohol at home. Cold water. Right now, water temperature is very cold, so you don't dress for the water, dress for air temperature. You dress for water temperature. So make sure you dress appropriately. Have your life jacket or PFD with you at all times. Child, you're on a vessel less than 18 feet, and a child less than 10 years of age has to be wearing a life jacket at all times. So make sure your boat registered. And also OBEC. If you're born after January 1st, 1982, you have to take a boat that can operate a boat 10 horsepower or greater. So make sure you have your OBEC. There's several areas you can get that at. Go to OhioDNR.gov, Boat US, and there's another one I can't think of right offhand, but make sure you get your boater education card. Go ahead, John.
Thanks, Scott.
If you guys see something out there, people littering, throwing wake zones, not people are supposed to be, there's several areas you can contact us at. The easiest way is pound ODNR from any cell phone. That gets to our dispatch center, which is manned 24/7 in Columbus. So if you see issues in the campground, issues on the water, in the park, give us a call. If it's a real emergency, number, dial 911. You had something to ask, John?
Thanks, Scott. We work real closely with Lieutenant Stoffer, Captain Andrews, and the men and the women that work under them. We hear a lot of good compliments about the work they do, so I just wanted to recognize him and thank him for his leadership and efforts. Thanks, Scott.
Yes, just real quick, can I add one thing? We are hiring some new officers this coming year, so you'll see some new faces in our Milton West Branch and Kendall Park. So we're also going through hiring 25 throughout the state coming up here this coming year also. Thank you.
Move on to Kurt.
Yeah, thanks, John. Yeah, so as I mentioned before, I'm the fish management supervisor for the Division of Wildlife in Northeast Ohio. So myself and my staff, we manage the fisheries across 19 Northeast counties, and it includes the fisheries in West Branch and Milton, which I want to discuss briefly today. A lot of times when people think about fisheries, they immediately think stocking. And although we do a lot more than that, they're not incorrect. We certainly do stockings. So first, let's touch on the stockings in West Branch and Milton. Both lakes actually receive the same exact stocking regimen. The Division of Wildlife stocks walleye and muskellunge. Walleye are stocked annually in the spring at a rate of 200 fingerlings per acre. And those fingerlings are basically about 1.25 inches in size. So they're only a month and a half or so old when they're stocked out. And for West Branch, that amounts to over 500,000, and in Milton, a little smaller reservoir, over 300,000. Muskellunge are stocked annually in the fall. These are advanced fingerlings. They're about 9 to 11 inches, and they're stocked at 1 fish per acre. Okay, next. So in addition to stocking, we do various things to assess the fisheries. One of the things we do are called creel surveys, where we have seasonal employees, like in this photograph, they're actually out on the water interviewing anglers, and we learn a lot about the fisheries from those standardized interviews. So at West Branch, the most recent creel survey we had was 2011. So I realize that's getting a little dated. We're only able to hit any given lake once or twice per decade. We do this from May to July, and just a few, I don't expect you to digest this entire table, but if you look at the table on the right, a few things to point out. At West Branch, about 50% of the anglers we interviewed report that they're fishing for anything that bites. And we generally view folks who report that as their target as more casual anglers, and it definitely aligns with West Branch having such an immense campground usage and recreational boating usage that shifts that to maybe some more casual anglers. Beyond those category, anglers, about 20% of the anglers reported they were fishing for bass, and another 12% for muskie. And I also want to point out that on any given day at West Branch, that survey estimated over 400 hours of angling effort on West Branch Reservoir. On the left is some information from our muskie angler log, which is a voluntary online reporting of muskie catches by anglers. Right now, West Branch is king. West Branch is rocking for muskie. This data here is from 2020. There was almost 900 muskies reported into the system from West Branch last year. and almost 20% of those reported were over 42 inches. So great size of muskie out there as well as numbers right now. Okay, next. So in addition to the creel survey, we go out with our own gear, electrofishing, netting. I know there's a lot here. So again, don't have to digest this whole slide, but basically the height of any one of these colored bars represents the abundance of fish in that survey that we did for a given year. So on the upper left, we have bass, upper right, crappie, and the bottom, walleye. And really the story for West Branch is that across the board on our sport fish, muskie aside, it just generally doesn't support density of sport fish at quite the same level that we see either regionally in Northeast Ohio or statewide. Not to say it's a bad fishery, but just not always necessarily high abundances of the sport fish. If you look over at crappie, you can see that there's very small percentage of the crappie that were over 9 inches. And if you're an avid angler, you probably are aware that at some of our waters, we have a 30 fish daily, 9-inch minimum harvest limit on crappie. We do not have that at West Branch because that would pretty much prohibit most of the harvest. And so you can keep crappie of any size at West Branch, and we just don't see good enough growth rates to justify that regulation for crappie. If you look down at walleye, although the actual numbers of walleye are fairly low, the size structure is great. You know, a large proportion of the walleye we captured in our most recent survey were 18 inches and above, with a good number over 22 inches. So nice walleye out there, just not a ton of them. Okay, next. So let's shift to Milton. Same layout as for the creel survey. This is much more recent. This is from 2019. A few things to highlight. Much lower percentage of anglers reporting that they fish for just anything that bites. So the anglers that are out there, by and large, are likely more avid and certainly more targeted in what they're fishing for. So about 40% of the anglers fishing for bass, 10% muskie, and a quarter of the anglers are targeting walleye. And you see almost 300 hours of angling effort each day, so a little bit less overall effort than Milton, but a lot more targeted. On the muskie side from 2020, lower numbers reported, almost 400 instead of the almost 900 at West Branch. And notably, only about 7% of those reported were over 42 inches. Year after year in Milton, we just don't see the same growth rates of muskie. The average size of the muskie just aren't as large as West Branch, but certainly still a great muskie fishery, just not quite the king that West Branch is right now. Okay, next. And then for Milton, looking at some of our own electrofishing or netting surveys, the same layout of these graphs. The exception is on the upper left, it's not largemouth bass. I wanted to highlight smallmouth bass. Lake Milton is one of the few lakes in Northeast Ohio, and really few lakes inland in Ohio in general, where you can target a nice fishable population of smallmouth. And you can see that the abundances of smallmouth bass in Milton are far and away higher than our regional or statewide averages. And good size, you know, plenty of fish in that 12 to 15 inch range, which is just super fun to catch. And then there's some big ones as well. If you look over at the crappie on the upper right, again, fairly low numbers of crappie, but now contrasted to West Branch, here we see a large proportion of those fish that are 9 inches and above, those crappie in Milton. And then at the bottom, walleye, the abundances are pretty much on par with our statewide average of walleye density from lake to lake, and a nice even size structure of walleye from, you know, the 15 to 18s all the way up, including, you know, some over 22. So a very nice walleye fishery right now in Milton. Okay, next. And then lastly, if you go to the Division of Wildlife's website, I wanted to point this out, and you either just search for interactive fishing map or just drill into the fishing section. There's a neat tool where you can zoom in and out of any lake, including West Branch and Milton. You could zoom right into a cove and get really good lake contour map information. And what I wanted to point out on this map, if you see all those little red circles, which might be hard to see on your screen, but those have a little fish icon. If you click on that, that shows all the places where my staff over the years have introduced either recycled Christmas trees or pallet structures as fish attractor devices to, you know, fish for crappie or sunfish over. And if you click on any one of those, it'll show what structures they are, the year we installed them, the depth, and the coordinates for your GPS. So really useful to find some of that and use that for targeted fishing. So that is all I have, and I assume we're going to be doing any questions at the end, right?
Correct. Thanks, Kurt.
Thank you.
Let's move this over to Rochelle.
Hi. So we offer lots of naturalist programs at our state parks, and Milton, West Branch, and Nelson are some of the places that we like to do that. Now, Stephen is the naturalist out there. He is seasonal. He will do all various types of programming, from paddle sports, from kayaking, canoeing, to stand-up paddleboarding, to hikes, to mushroom exploration, to mammal presentations. You name it, we just about do everything. There's a little bit of everything for everyone. Another cool thing that's coming out this year is our new Detour app, which is a map that lists all the trails that can be found in the state of Ohio. Currently, we have over 7,000 miles mapped out on this map, or the app, I should say, including some of our metro parks like Summit, Geauga, and Cleveland metro parks. Their trails are on this, and this app is really cool. It's unique that you can actually follow the dots while you're walking on our trails, and we highlight special things that you can see there. So like the geology, the flowers, maybe a cool owl that's been perching in the tree nearby. It's a great way to get you out there in nature exploring. And like John said earlier, I had the pleasure to come to his parks to help blaze the trails. So again, please stay on trail. It keeps you safe, it keeps our workers safe, and it also protects the nature around you. So that way, when you go back out there, there'll be something cool to discover out there. So follow those blazes and stay safe.
Thanks, Rochelle. Yeah, just again, thanks. I appreciate your help with all the stuff you've done at the park and beyond. So nice work. So a couple updates for you guys. What is next? Lake Milton. Right now, if you guys have driven by our park office where I'm headquartered, we're working real diligently to finish the new disc golf course. When that's done, we'll have an 18-hole course that traverses an area that expands all the way across the street and heads in the wooded area behind our park. It'll have some really neat views of the lake, some pretty neat holes as well. We're also, the beach, as I mentioned, is one of our big popular destinations. We realize that that place has some challenges from time to time with parking. We're going to be putting in some barricades on that north end of the beach, hopefully eliminate some of those problem times when people would get triple parked and trapped in. As I mentioned earlier, we put in a new kiosk at Nelson that had some signage that showed the trails. We're planning on putting one in at Milton. We also plan to continue to do some trail enhancements at the mountain bike trails. Lastly, one of the big things that we're working on, and I work closely with the Lake Milton Association, we're going to be putting some no wake signage up on the bridges so that people can more clearly understand the rules when it comes to wake. Again, I know that a lot of people had some concerns over that. We hear you. This is something that we're working on, trying to improve that and to educate boaters so that they understand the rules and whatnot. Moving on, East Ramp at West Branch State Park. We're going to be doing some new tiling in that bathroom, trying to give it a fresh look. This past year, if you're one of the horsemen that like to come to West Branch, you probably saw some of the work that we did on the Red Trail with the landing down by the creek. We plan to continue to work with you guys and some of our other volunteers to do some additional enhancements to the trails. I think the bridle network that we have at West Branch is one of our hidden gems. I really have come in the past couple years to appreciate it more and more, and the men and women that kind of come out there and enjoy that. It taught me a lot. As Mick mentioned earlier, we did some updates to a couple of our shower houses. You know, obviously we had some new LED lights put in, and touchless hand dryers and dispensers and whatnot, trying to make the shower houses a little safer, but more importantly, to kind of give it a fresh look. We're also going to be installing a new kiosk at Lake Milton and look for some additional enhancements to the mountain bike trail there as well. Hopefully, we are looking to tie the network of trails in from the beach all the way over to the existing trail system. More to come on that. And then lastly, at Nelson Ledges, As I mentioned earlier, record numbers of people that came up this past year, which is great. We love it that so many people are getting to explore that. We're going to be adding some additional grills and some tables up there. One of the things that we kind of saw was that people were picnicking in higher numbers up there, and that people kind of wanted to come and hang out. And we're going to do what we can to, make it a little bit more inviting and welcoming there. I'm also working with some guys from our geologic survey side and with ODNR. They're doing a little informational pamphlet that we'll have available electronically and some in print that'll have info on the geology at Nelson. I went up there and met with those guys earlier this year. They kind of showed me a little bit about what they were working on, and I'm excited about it. So more to come on that. But having said that, I'd like to bounce into the question and answer session.
Okay, John, we do have a few questions. Linda would like to know, do you know how many total miles are completed on the mountain bike trail? More specifically, the mountain bike trail at Lake Milton.
I believe they're up to about 9 miles right now. The trail system has, they basically put some signage up there that will dictate what direction you ride each day. They're trying to rotate it so that stuff is more evenly wore down. They're kind of nearing, there's a group called Rust Belt Revival. If you go on their Facebook page and follow them, they put updates on when they're doing trail days and whatnot. The trails themselves are kind of constantly growing there though.
All right, great. Next question. This was just from an anonymous viewer. Can you use canoes and kayaks at Lake Milton? And what are some places to launch?
Yeah, that's a great question. Ironically, I get asked that a lot. There's really no one destination that you have to launch from. You can launch from any of our boat launches or any of the public areas that you can access. A couple of the better ones that I like to personally go from, Point View is a great spot to launch from. If you head south down the river, there's a lot of great opportunities to see wildlife and just other boating activity, and then it's all a no-wake area. Obviously, if you launch from our Marina or Harry Michel Park, that's in between the two bridges. Remember, the lake is unlimited horsepower, so you do have some bigger boats, and the canoes and kayaks can get swamped out if you're out in the middle. But that area is no wake. It's not as big as the south end of the lake. One of the other spots that I always like to launch from is at the far northwest corner. Just from the beach north, there's some of those inlets and areas over by the dam that provide some really cool views, and it's an area where you can kind of quickly get in and out if you're not looking to do a real long venture.
All right, great. Thanks, John. And so this one's a little trickier, and Lieutenant Stauffer might want to weigh in on this one. There have been neighborhood controversies about the legality of alcohol on state property, butting up to private residences and also on docks. Is it legal? Question mark.
On the state property, no, you do not have any alcohol on state property. And depending on what type of docks they are, if you're using it as your boat, I'm assuming it's as a boat. So the confusion is on Lake Erie, you can have alcohol on your boat. State parks, you can't overtly consume or display any alcoholic beverages on a boat or in the state park. So if you're at the West Branch dock and Marina and your boat is an overnight boat, then we'll let you drink on that boat. But you can't be walking on the docks. You can't be walking in the marina. You can't be walking in the park and have any alcohol. Just like the same thing in your campground. So on your campsite, you can have alcohol, but once you walk off the campsite, you cannot have alcohol off that campsite. Hope that answers the question.
Okay, there's a second part to this, and I heard you say maybe some of this, Scott, so sorry if this is a repeat because I couldn't quite catch everything you said. So the same person has a second part to their question. They say, some believe alcohol is legal on a boat provided the driver is not drinking and the alcohol is in an unmarked container or plastic cup.
And this is where you go back to federal waterways, Lake Erie. You can have it up on Lake Erie, and the operator of the boat can have a beer in his hand. We don't promote alcohol while boating, but it can't be above a .08, okay? So inland waterways, state parks, there's no alcohol permitted in the state park. You can't overtly consume or display alcohol on a boat in a state park. So no alcohol in the state park, okay? Lake Erie, Ohio River is a little different. There's a federal waterways. You can have it on there, but the driver cannot be intoxicated.
Okay, thank you. One more question from Dave. Being a trustee in Milton, we appreciate all the improvement. Well, excuse me, not a question, but a compliment. Being a trustee in Milton, we appreciate all the improvements and cooperation with the state park. Great people to work with. Thanks. So
Thanks,
just wanted to share that.
Thanks.
And
working with them as well.
great. I do believe that is all the questions we have for now. Just so the folks listening know, we will leave the question and answer period open for a little bit, so you've still got a few minutes if something comes to mind. But other than that, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it, and have a good rest of your day. Thanks.